Hi everyone, I'm Airier, and today we're going to be looking at more of TexTalks BattleTech, specifically the Marauder. Now, if it sounds like I'm excited, it's because I really am. I've kind of come around to loving the Marauder as probably my second favorite mech in all of BattleTech after the Warhammer, because I just really enjoyed using it in both Harebrained Schemes BattleTech and Mechwarrior 5. And now we get to jump into it. So, I might actually be paying attention to the specifics of how this thing functions better, because while I might enjoy the mech, I don't do well with it. It's just fun. So I'm going to jump right in, see how this thing works, and figure out how I can not fuck up as much. Yeah. Otherwise, you guys know the deal. Link below, original video, hit it up. And when you're done, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe. And if for some reason another video comes out from Tex and I've missed it, let me know, because even if it'll be a while before I can get to it, I want to know, man. I'm an addict. I'm aware of that. Yeah. Otherwise, links below. Hit them up. Let's get started. 70s or 80s, I can't tell. I'm thinking 80s. More of a 80s vibe to most BattleTech in general. Still really cool. Oh. Was that space junk? No. Go back. I want to see what that was. Was that a mech? I think that might have been a mech. No, I don't. Snack. Is this a space station? Or is it something they ran into last episode? Because I recognize the snack thing. Oh, is it what they ran into in the last episode? I think either they shot at or ran into. I barely remember. I just remember it being really cool, but then everything else was cooler. So we're on Van Zandt then, because I recognize it. That's why. Planet Van Zandt. Deep periphery. Sovereignty? Complicated.
Scrumbles, no like Scorpion. Smash.
Whoa. Holy shit. Okay, yeah, this is a huge jump in production value for the intro. Wow. Rent a nuke. Next left. Oh my god, this is where he's from.
With our broadcast. Remember, I'm Mayor Barnabas Wilberson, and you're listening to Zanfont Free State Radio. The next song is dedicated to our brave militia.
What? State Trooper? He has... The State Trooper is a freaking... Is that a... I was going to say a rifleman, but I know it's a blackjack, isn't it? And it has the ladder going all the way down. Well, I mean, if you're getting pulled over by this guy, you're going very slow. On the other hand, guaranteed annihilation, which you can tell he's fired because it's already... Looks like ionized the ending. Yeah, that would do it. Discount Dan's. Rent a nuke. They actually put him into the beginning. 4 doors, 4 more. Oh my god. What? Van Zandt, Starlink Museum. Oh god, dead ahead. We're literally just getting all of the stupidest jokes they put in here. All of the things Tex said, including Golden Corral. Everyone deserves a good meal. No warlords. And they just poke right at Amaris. I just realized that's Discount Dan's car. Oh my god, they're just laying this in here. I mean, people said this is where it really kicks up animation-wise. And goddamn, are they right? And there's no road. Huh. Discount Dan's rent a nuke. Surprisingly not... Oh, no, never mind, there's a nuke. There's another nuke. Nukes for days!
Howdy there, folks. Please take your seats as we continue our lecture series as chosen by the student body last semester. Or whenever we did that series of polls. Yep. If you even get the polls, that is, when the cops are trying to throttle us.
Actually weird.
Anyways, after having covered the events and pivotal moments in history which shaped the Inner Sphere as we know it today, and along the way, dissected some of the okayest battle mechs ever put into production, we will now turn our attention
I actually understand more of it now. I want to go back and just get context.
War machines mankind could ever hope for. Yes, this time around, we're diving deep on one of the Inner Sphere's most iconic mechs. Yeah. The timeless classic of classics itself. The mighty Marauder.
Okay, 1, Marauders are cool. 2, I know it's supposed to be faux Scottish with the bagpipes and the floofy helmets, but it looks ridiculous no matter what time period. It really does. Really cool art, though. Just the Marauder's so freaking cool. Would that be the
Please
Marauder 2 with the
contain
oversized cannon?
yourselves, because this is above all a history lesson, and naturally, we'll need to cover a few things before getting into the war machine itself.
Oh.
Needless to say, the course of this lecture will provide an in-depth background and history primer on the Inner Sphere first, specifically regarding.
Oh, it took me a while to realize why this looked different. It's like, one, the Combine is really slim. Liren, yeah. And Lao being so huge. It's like, wait, Federated Suns are small. It's all open and there's Hindu. Oh, this is pre-Star League. This is Terran Hegemony timeline. This would be Cameron's age? Well, okay, that's not saying much because there's so many Camerons. The first Cameron, huh?
The years
the
leading
first?
into
Actually,
Marauder development. This will serve as the necessary
I
foundational
always thought when it
knowledge
goes into history,
in
this is what
understanding
I just-
not only how the Marauder came to be about, but why. From the years after the Mackie to the lead up to the Marauder's actual production, this lecture will provide an essential understanding in why this 75-ton war machine in particular plays.
Sorry, I just want to take a second. I love these kind of diagram cutouts. Dude, now this is interesting though. In a lot, this must be an older one actually. In a lot of the newer art, they have the synth fibers. Even in some of the stuff in the Mackie timeline, they have it in there. This one though is completely mechanical designs without any of the synthetic fibers in here. Unless that little bit right there is what's supposed to be. I'm assuming though this is much of the older art where they had various things and turbines. Yeah, that's weird. But just, I don't care because it looks cool, man. Ooh, neat. Shock absorbers. I guess that would be necessary. And down there was more and then multi-levered. Honestly, it looks weird from this design perspective. It really does. But it's still cool. And you can see all the detail in the cockpit. That actually looks really cool. And dude, if I can find a book just of cutouts of all the design specifications, I would just go, yes, and buy it on the spot. And then probably regret the money I spent later. But it would be cool.
Plays such a central part in so much of our shared history, and most importantly, why it has earned its place as one of the definitive heavy mechs of the Inner Sphere
Yup.
and beyond. Our
Big cannon on
story
top.
begins
Shooty can- Ooh, what's
with an
that version?
exploration of the events which directly influenced development and production of the Marauder in order to give background
Looks
to
like
its
Marauder
meaning
2.
and story.
It's bulkier.
Only once the background is set can we appreciate why the Marauder is so goddamn important.
Part 1. The madness of the 25th and 26th centuries. Oh.
War is a hell of a thing.
Yeah.
So the saying goes.
Giant-ass
Fully
cannons on tank.
industrialized warfare qualifies as a new kind of hell altogether. The madness of unlimited strategic warfare, backed by the full
25th and
industrial
26th,
output
yeah.
of the major
Nukes
houses
everywhere.
of the Inner Sphere, was something completely new on the scale of human suffering. The maddening excesses of the 25th
I know
and
I've seen this before, but it
26th
still looks cool.
centuries had certainly left their mark on the Inner Sphere. That is to say, it had been an era of great upheaval and terrible conflict. That's what we in the history business tend to call the Age of War. And it certainly was that.
What happened
It
prior
was
to
a
the start?
time of war, a time of chaos, of burning, of glassing planets, and sorting disputes with nukes. It was a time where borders shifted by the day, where the casus belli was as simple as perceived threat or diplomatic insult, and war was the only viable way to sort things out. It was a time of such destruction that we still today aren't exactly clear on every detail.
And that's one of the things I really like. Just the fact that there's so much potential for future aspects. Let me go back. What I'm specifically referring to is the fact that there's gray areas still in the BattleTech timeline, because a lot of the main timeline from, well, prior to the clan invasions to far in the future have a lot of very concrete lore, including parts where it would have been better maybe to leave it vague. It's like, hey, maybe this guy who is an amazing Mechwarrior faded into history and we don't really know what happened. Build up some lore around him, like maybe he started his own group and went off, or did something else and we don't know, but it's going to be a mystery and we can find it out later. Other times it's... okay, so we just had a new company by BattleTech. What are we going to do? Kill off everyone. Because our new guys who we can profit off more are going to sell, and it's not selling, it's to someone else. it's funny because that's a very simplified but somehow still mostly correct answer of exactly what happened. And the BattleTech lore was very concrete. And then, of course, they went back and some really good writers did get it. And I'm just getting into the novels. I haven't got that far yet, but I'm starting to, and it's not bad. Some are better than others, but it's not bad. Otherwise, I like the idea that this time of war is so far in the past that if crazy shit happened, far in the future in the main BattleTech canon timelines, they could still say, here is a relic from the Age of War. And while it won't be a mech, it could probably be some ungodly weapon of destruction that you're just going to sit there and go, oh, fuck. Because one, you're not going to get to use it, but anyone who does is most likely evil beyond all hell. So it makes a great plot device.
Other than it was an age of war. Then, war was frequent. War was brutal. And even when later mitigated by the Aries conventions at the tail end of that era, it became even more acceptable as the standard means by which to solve any and all inter-house disputes. Where war was once a contest of destruction between nations hell-bent on destroying what they couldn't take outright, it transitioned with new rules, thanks to the Aries conventions, to become a sport over.
I think this is probably one of the most terrifying pieces Tex uses, because I'm never sure if that light at the end is what they're running to, or if it's a bomb going off and they're all about to go dust. He's used it quite a lot. Back during the Civil War episodes, he did this art. I've seen it a bunch of times, and whenever he wants to show horrible destruction. And I think it's such a great piece because it just shows the absolute rubble. But still enough is standing that you can't delude yourself into thinking maybe it wasn't that bad, because you see, no, there's just enough to realize how much is lost and then how much is still falling apart. And the people, the skeletal nature here where their legs are so far apart makes them look less like people and more like they're already dead. It's the skeletal aspect. It's what you think when you look at them. They don't look like people. They look like they've already died, and they just haven't caught up with that yet. It's just a really good piece of art for that reason alone.
For night. No more were war crimes the accepted status quo. No more were civilian casualties just part of the allowable collateral damage calculations inflicted upon a planet in the mad dash of conquest. Instead,
those would be the warships.
It would be a very different game of capture the flag, paid for in blood. But such was the era of the Aries conventions.
What's he going to put on the paper?
War, as previously stated, had changed. It was more of the same. By many means, though.
Seriously, we promise not to nuke civilians. Yeah. That one held up.
Tempered by agreed-upon rules of engagement. In short, the Aries conventions ensured that where worlds were once burned in the name of conquest,
they were stamped on.
They would now be kept mostly whole when conquered, and then passed on to the victor in the next contest of military might.
Yeah.
Well, for the...
Yeah, just further rub it in, Tex, that it's literally the exact same excess of the clans, just done writ large. It pissed me off so much when I found out the clan's love of warfare and warrior culture and honor was literally just sport warfare with higher stakes. And then coming back and saying, oh yeah, by the way, they got that idea from this time period where it was sport warfare, but with higher stakes. It's just there was more than a few people in this one. It was across the inner sphere instead of just a handful of worlds. And just it's literally the exact same issue, just from a slightly different side with less people. That's all the clans were. And it makes sense, and I love it because it shows the redundancy of history rhyming. But also, I don't like that he's reminding me of it because it's like, yeah, degeneracy of the clans is actually predecessed by the fact that it actually fits perfectly with how their history progresses. Yeah. Still love the joke.
Most part, that is. By my humble estimation, the Age of War was the first and most powerful crescendo in the history of the Inner Sphere.
Yep.
Humanity climbed to the precipice of annihilation and then stepped back for a breather at the very brink. But the Inner Sphere is...
What's that other one up there? Wait, if that was Rashlag, it should have... Wait. Of course, that would be the Rim Republic. Or World Republics, but really, Rashlag was that far up? I thought it was further down. Weird.
and has always been.
Also, what the hell is up with this art? I can get it when you do like a BattleTech Mechwarrior is in it because it's heat reduction and all that shit, but this is just... Okay, I'm just going to say it because I know this is custom art. Someone has a leather fetish. That's the only reason you got this. It's literally either that or they enjoyed 80s style cartoons, Johnny Quest, like the Frogmen and all of the wetsuit look. There's probably someone who enjoys that. Honestly, okay, I can get that. But just the gratuitous amounts of skin-tight leather. Or they're a fan of Star Trek, because that's also the kind of thing they did, except it was more felt rather than leather, but details.
Balance military superpowers trying to find that perfect opening strike, that perfect place to land a decisive blow. So instead of giving up war altogether, the Inner Sphere merely tempered it by agreeing to a few, if basic, humanitarian rules. Rules like accepting surrender and not indiscriminately nuking everything because it was in the way. Rules like wearing...
Yeah, indiscriminate surrender, being allowed to... God. Yeah, because he's referencing the Capella against the Tatarians, because technically it was legal because the Tatarians didn't sign, but just... Oh, we got a free world, we got Kurita and the feds? Yeah, then technically it will be the feds. Good old Davian. Weird, they're all together, and... that two of them are... Wait, is this a mercenary group? What did I miss?
Indiscriminately nuking everything because it was in the way.
Nuking everything, mostly the Capellan.
Rules like wearing standardized uniforms and not carpet bombing stuff because it looked at you funny.
Wait. Standardized uniforms was a thing they added? I'm assuming they only did that because before it was a lot of false flags like, hey, what do they usually wear here? Let's wear that. But that's just... Why would they need to standardize? Because they're making war a sport. Gotta remember that part. It's literally not uniforms. It's the equivalent of a team jersey. It's literally just team jerseys that also offer a little bit of bullet protection.
Rules that some ignored or selectively interpreted for their own gain.
Heavily selectively.
After all, Capellans are Capellans. Some say the age...
Wait, what did that say? No. Go back. Wow, that's rude. Oh, because the shot is literally glancing off his helmet. And it looks like it's cutting through a bit of his sword and or large knife. I don't know. It's very small for a sword.
Some say the age of war ends with the Aries conventions. And I think that's a load of crap.
Talking points. Tindaville massacre. Great houses call. Millions dead. Collateral damage. Yeah, that actually doesn't even sound that weird. Hell, we can do that now. We already are, but the details. Also, what were we saying was a load of crap?
After all, Capellans are Capellans. Some say the age of war ends with the Aries conventions.
That's bullshit.
And I think that's a load of crap. I think the age of war ends with the Maquis. In fact, I argue strongly that the next great chapter of Inner Sphere history assuredly begins with the rise and proliferation of the battle mech as the weapon of weapons.
You know, I was going to say something about how that didn't make sense, but no, actually, when you think about it, the Aries Convention, while important, didn't stop them from having those wars. They were still fighting, they just reduced the scale, but they were still happening. The Maquis isn't so much the end of the Age of War, but are redefining it in such a way that it feels completely different in how you value the individual aspect of it. Because you move to the Mechwarrior, to the honorable sides, and things that came up later on, and what you value a Mechwarrior as, and again, things that got pulled over to the clan. Yeah, it actually does make sense. Not so much that it is not more war or less war, it's that the face of it changed because everyone's seeing the new shiny thing and focusing on the new shiny thing instead of, okay, let's throw our mass amount of soldiers here and fight our mass amount of soldiers there, because it was still just as much war, just less all out. Unless you're exploiting a loophole like Lao and Satarians. Yeah.
Which largely replaced all of those massive warship fleets, just waiting for the next
the warships were still there.
force. The humble Mackie, which while not war-ready and essentially a walking prototype pushed into rapid production by the greed of the military-industrial
But it
complex,
works.
was accordingly an imperfect solution to the military stagnation of the inner sphere. But it did serve as an eternal reminder that war could still change.
And also, people have the magpie tendency to go, ooh, shiny! Literally, that's actually a way to describe how this entire thing went down.
The Mackie proved that war was not a static concept. Much to the surprise of military planners of the era, the Mackie demonstrated that war had the capacity to surprise even the most entrenched battlefield doctrine hardliners. And as the new face of war, it succeeded in changing everything. In that way, and that way alone, the Mackie was perfect. This new technology
It was a shock to the system.
singularly suited
for that
toward
alone, it
breaking
worked.
the stalemate of limited-scale conflict as imposed by the Ares Conventions, set the ground for an era of rapid proliferation in which each...
And when you think about it, and as weird as this might sound, if the Mackie hadn't come up, if it hadn't triggered everyone's magpie senses, you could easily see BattleTech having an alternate timeline for a tank-only version that was literally just, okay, the Mackie wasn't made, and eventually the Age of War did come up because someone decided to break it because it's taking too long. Or they amassed enough forces during limited strikes that they could overwhelm someone. I'm assuming that probably would have happened because having any idea of a limited strike means that you can just get away with more if it's not noticed. It would be interesting. And it isn't the first time BattleTech has put up alternate histories for people to use. Again, I keep referencing this one. There is an official BattleTech PDF available on, I think, Catalyst website, where you can see the alternate timeline where the Star League never left, and that's a playable campaign setting if you want to do games in that. That is direct from Catalyst, who own the freaking systems now, so yeah, this isn't even entirely impossible. I would love to see what would happen if this went down differently. This would also probably only happen if they were making a big push for more low-level infantry and tank-based models, but that's entirely possible because it'd be cool. Maybe just once, if there's like a kit that just puts up the infantry on both sides, you get a nice kit of it, do it, see what happens, just play through that setting. It'd be neat. Shit, now I want to do a tank-only map. That's weird. I don't usually like tanks because I like the big stompy robots. Unless it's absolutely massive tanks. Massive tanks with even bigger guns. Oh, yeah.
House tried and succeeded in replicating the Mackie blueprints, and then in time, unlocking the secrets of its design process. This era of proliferation was a contest of industrial firms and vast economic powers vying for total supremacy on the terrestrial battlefield. With warships now relegated towards strategic defense considerations and fleets in being for any practical purpose, they were a dead end for development in a truly strategically neutered age.
And that's one of the things I think would definitely become an issue. Again, in alternate timelines, I just like the idea that as much as they neutered warships here, if someone didn't have the Mackie, if they didn't have that sudden shiny thing to distract them, someone would develop a different warship. Just because it would be the logical conclusion of, why build a better gun when you can make an even bigger gun that we already have that no one else is using because for some reason they gave them up. Also, I just love this image right here because it does something that you don't usually see. Just how horribly fucked this person knows they are because their tool is floating away. And depending on how fast they're going, if it touches anything going the opposite direction, that's bad. That would do a lot of damage. Yeah. Just relativistic speeds when you consider orbital dynamics. Anyone going in the opposite direction from the general orbit, it suddenly looks like it's moving a lot faster. It's like if you're moving 1,000 miles that direction and something else is moving 99,000 miles that direction, that's still a really big difference. But if you're going the other direction, you're going to die a lot harder. Okay, considering I said 99,000 to 1,000, that's still a huge difference, but you know what I meant. Opposition versus going the same direction makes the difference a lot more noticeable. Yeah. Also, spaceships. Like, no, those aren't spaceships. Those are, satellite arrays. It looks like satellite gun weaponry. Neat.
And thus began the age of the battle mech, which I believe, again as argued, ends the age of war quite neatly. New rules, new toys, new thinking, new heroes.
I like the fact he refers to them as
same
toys.
Innersphere,
Because
same
for the
problems,
great houses, they basically are toys.
same outcome. And some morons will lift their pen and tell us that war is the hygiene of the world. But no, war is, as Clausewitz said, politics by any other means.
I've pointed out in a previous video, I think this is more of a philosophical disagreement I do have with Tex. It's, how to put it? The way this is said is mostly based on the state-level interpretation of politics as opposed to the individual interpretation of politics. How to put it? On the side level, it is how do you have options of interacting between one country and the next, in which politics, war, interdependent diplomacy, and trade, these are all various options of how to categorize interaction between governing bodies. And war is just one of those options you can choose from, such as in a list. I think when you get down to the more human level, though, it doesn't quite work the same way, because while you can still see war as an independent choice, it doesn't quite work because the meaning of politics is how to do things by talking and using soft power, hard power, various aspects. I've more ascribed to the idea that politics is war is the breakdown of politics. When politics works, things can be talked through, voted on, moved through. It's more of a democratic understanding of how politics work. And not to say that it's wrong or right, just how you frame things and redefine them does show where your biases lie. Mine would be to non-violent solutions, where it's not wrong to say violent solutions are also part of a version of politics. I'm just not going to subscribe to that version. It's complicated. Basically, there's ways to define things based on how you group things together, so it's multiple truths of how you make things viable in an understanding. Where politics is not saying that war is off the option on a human level, but that you do it last, as opposed to where war is just one of the options that you might choose immediately. It does work in different frames of governance where violence is a more ready answer, but that's on a more human, down-to-earth current level, although I shouldn't say it's been always that way. Through a lot of human history, violence was the first answer and the only answer because we didn't care about the rest. It's more important now just because ending the world is a thing. Yeah, I'm going to forget about that. It's disturbing. But yeah, this is a just personal disagreement I have on politics, or not politics, philosophy on this aspect. There's always one I really find interesting. I love seeing all the comments about it just because people getting into these little conversations really do actually amuse me. I just find it fun to get in. It's like, oh, I agree with this, I don't agree with that, but I see where you're coming from. It's just, this kind of stuff is fun to me.
By focusing on the Mackie, by trying to copy it, to emulate it, and then by manufacturing their own, each great house changed its war plans and industries to compete in a completely new arena, mech combat. In simple terms, this meant the age of the battle mech was here to stay.
Also, I don't think he meant it as a direct shout out of arena to being a sport, but unintentionally, I do completely agree with that. It sounds like it's basically a game to the inner sphere, played by the greater houses, and the stakes are felt by everyone who's not them, up until it goes really, really bad. So, sports. And honestly, if you take into account how some people have stormed the field in soccer matches in England, or it's not even that off. Yeah, no, actually it's a perfect result.
And not just a passing fad in military technology. With every manufacturing firm with an interest in making fat stacks of cash, rapidly shifting priorities toward battle mech research and development, it was a new age of proliferation, a new age of war, one that would change the fortunes of those brave enough to embrace it.
For this version
but as history is full of these sorts of things, there was a warning, and I must repeat again, for history's sake, an age-old Terran saying, beware the military-industrial complex.
Oh?
In truth, that quote goes deeper than most would care to look.
Oh? I mean, I know the basic of that is A lot of shady stuff in the 60s, and prior to that, it's like, money. I like money. Let's get more of it. There's a lot more I don't want to go into, but I think Tex might. Also, is that Dwight D. Eisenhower? I could be mistaken, but I think it is.
Spoken by a retired general and statesman governing an ancient nation-state on distant Terra, an outgoing ruler from the North American.
He's staying in character. This is something that every now and again kind of falls away when he's doing these presentations, that he's doing the presentation character himself. But here, because he's talking about as the ancient Terra, and we're seeing then the old-fashioned option, and it looks like it's an actual real one with an old clip of him playing within it. Neat. I love these keeping character to talk about what was not quite modern day, but just recent history for Earth.
American continent had this to say on the same subject almost midway through the 20th century, when his nation was locked in an arms race with another for supremacy of the world. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition
of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist.
It is shocking to me that despite all we've learned and achieved since that distant place and time, some things never change. But then
Can't believe I'm going to say this, but that's actually something I disagree with Tex on. Not that anything he said is wrong, but that it would be shocking to him. I guess, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, Tex is a lot more of an optimist than I am. I think it makes perfect sense that that wouldn't change. In fact, I would fully expect that reality will look a lot more like BattleTech. So even though I'm pretty sure he's talking in character, the fact that the character he's playing is shocking that it wouldn't change over that time means that the guy from Van Zandt is a little bit naive in my estimation. It just amuses me. Also, depresses me that the character who's meant to be hard as nails, Van Zandt, is like, yeah. And just honestly really cool. I can be more jaded than him. That's disturbing.
again, another ancient quote, this time from a well-worn Bible.
Oh?
Nihil novi sub sole.
No, it's in Latin.
There's nothing new under the sun. In history, things tend to go in cycles. You've probably picked up on this.
Yep.
And as historians, your job is going to be to point at these instances and try to warn folks what might be coming. For those who care to listen anyhow.
And that's the problem.
So with a new weapon system above all other things desired and coveted by the great houses of the inner sphere, and with infinite money to be made, and with the vast expense accounts of the inner sphere's competing houses ready to write any check which ensured their primacy, so began an era of rapid arms development, the likes of which the inner sphere had never seen.
Yeah, technically that would make sense because warships, while the be-all, end-all, were so massively expensive that this is more money they can throw at something for a cheaper product, but then also trick themselves in spending more money on it. It also means more people will get into the pie because previously there was so little that could be thrown into it that it had to be very selected. I guess it makes sense, yeah. Beforehand, maybe one company would make a warship. Now, everyone can make a mech, and it's still ungodly expensive, but a lot more people can have that ungodly expensive thing. That makes sense. It actually really does.
It is from this contest of rapid research and development where you begin to see the emergence of second-generation battle mechs.
And flat out
For
stealing
while
on the
the
battlefield,
Mackie was
salvage a
decent,
thing.
and doubly so as a rushed prototype again quickly put into operational field status far before it was ready, it was not a universal weapons platform. In a few short years,
I want to say this is stupid, that putting something into a war that's not ready for it as the minimum product is stupid, but there's actually a term for this in technology firms right now. I can't remember it because I think it's so incredibly stupid I've wiped it from my memory, but the basic concept is we are going to do the absolute minimum we can do to at least ship this shit out the door so that it at least turns on, so it at least works is maybe a harder word than is justified, but let's just go, it doesn't immediately blow up. And we'll put that out the door, and then we'll improve it as it goes if it works, so we can fail fast and try again harder. This is literally the Mackie, except they didn't fail fast. They got all the time in the world, and as soon as something looked like it succeeded, then they switched over to, nope, we're doing it. We're doing it. We're doing the thing. And they just kept doing it. It's literally the fail fast method, but with a mech. And it makes sense. And the crazy part, and this is the part that really blows my mind, what they're describing, this probably would have been created in BattleTech lore before the Silicon boom. Or, yeah, no. The tech firms in the 90s to the 2000s to the 2010s to now had that as a big thing. But Silicon Valley during the 80s, while it was, I think it was a thing, but it wasn't as much to the same level, to the same methodology being as intrinsically, it's going to be broken, but let's just push it out the door and fix it later. So this very well might have been what they're describing as something that real life came to reflect later. And I find this absolutely depressingly funny. Oh, wow.
Mackie was insufficient to the task of being a multi-role warfighting platform, and the military-industrial complex saw
it was the
that
minimum viable
shortcoming
prototype.
and decided now was the time to make all the money in the world.
Yeah.
At first, the great houses wanted mechs, any kind, even bad.
Whoa. And that is a lot bigger than the Mackie is. I mean, yeah, that's terrifying. It's definitely going War of the Worlds inspired here. Yeah, but even some of the Star League era art where it's ungodly huge by comparison, this is, I think the Mackie would maybe come up to this part normally, maybe a little higher, but, whew, yeah, this is huge.
Even bad copies of the prototype Mackie. But in time, and with arms competition
the older style
determining
art, too.
who would be able
It looks
to
like it's
defend their
done by
sovereign
someone else.
territory in vast commercial
Just
interests,
because it actually looks good art of a bad
Mackie's
design.
primacy would be challenged. What the great houses needed were more specialized battle mechs.
Archer,
Some of these we have covered
that one?
previously.
Rifleman.
With the
nice.
second generation of battle mech development and funding unlimited by great houses greatly afraid of falling behind, various battlefield roles were soon filled with exciting and specialized killing tools, fully suited to their intended purpose. If nothing else, this was an era of new ideas, with some having far more impact than others,
Probably the
or
Archer there.
even merit. Bellerophon, Scorpion, I'm looking at you.
Professor.
God damn, Tex. I know you're putting a joke in here with this thumbnail, but you're doing this guy justice. God damn. Also, Bellerophon, I have no idea what this is, but it looks really neat. It looks like someone took a Mackie and is like, hey, what happened if we did it really cool looking? Also, is that a freaking nuclear symbol? Is this thing run by a pocket nuke? God damn. This thing, I might have downloaded the mod to put these kind of mechs into Mechwarrior 5, but I haven't run into them yet, and I've heard they play stupid on the tabletop when you run them. Unless you want to go really fast forward and then take forever to turn around. Because they can't torso twist, so they have to actually move to shoot any other direction. On the other hand, they move very fast, I've been told. Just not with terrain, ever.
I'm looking at you.
Professor.
God damn, man. Tom fucking Tombadil.
Is it true that they tried to make it fly like a plane does?
What?
Yeah, they tried to make it fly. No, I'm
What?
not joking.
That one.
Remember when I said history repeats itself?
That one.
Look, every so often in history this happens. Military planners and weapons designers get together, they have a few drinks and try
No. Let's go back a second. They tried to make that one fly. Unless they're going a Airier design on this, in which case, maybe that would work. Might even be an easier landing than the current Airier. And probably about as effective at not killing the pilot by landing that way. Yeah.
Remember when I said history weapon? Remember few drinks
I missed
and
something.
try
What
to
the
make
fuck
things
was
do
that?
what they really shouldn't. Remember, not all ideas are equal. So, with new mechs,
I'm going to ask something, and I only want an answer conditionally. If this is just a prototype, that someone just did it to see if they could do it, and this wasn't actually something that was ever actually on a battlefield, tell me that. And if I'm wrong, and someone's like, hey, let's just make a whole bunch of tanks with biplane wings and like just tag them on, and it's like, yeah, it's gonna be the exact same thing, but unarmored freaking wings and just, just getting rid of the best aspect of a tank being the fact that it has the armored section and then showing the unarmored bottom to the enemy shooting you and just... Don't. If this is real, as in not just a prototype, not just a proof of concept, but something that people actually paid for, that was actually made in mass and fielded somewhere, don't tell me, because I don't want to believe that would be a thing. This would be like, in BattleTech terms, building a mech backwards and charging in reverse to the enemy. It's like, hey, let's do the best thing. They'll never expect it. Show them the weak back armor we have and make sure they only ever see that. This hurts. This literally hurts.
with new mechs, new ideas, and new weapon systems, the great houses continued throwing down while doing their best to obey the Ares conventions, except for those few times the Capellans decided to take the bull by
He's
the
really
horns
shitting on
and
the
find out
Capellans a lot.
exactly
Granted,
why the Taurians
they did
had
a lot
a
of horrible
reputation
shit.
for being experts at defense and death. And it would have gone on this way in the Inner Sphere,
But
with endless skirmishing, weapons development, surprise attacks, saber rattling, brinksmanship, and an ever-escalating series of brushfire wars, until one man decided to change everything. And because this is the Inner Sphere, there's a common thread for these sorts of events. His name was Ian Cameron, and he would create Star League.
dude, I actually got chills. Oh. And that was the first bit of the Marauder from TexTalks BattleTech. And sorry, the fact that we got to a Cameron, that he's going to change it all. I got chills when they said, and he created Star League. I just, God damn it, I know that because people told me about that in the Amaris videos, but just, even though I know what's going to happen, and a bit of me is like, I know how shitty this is going to turn. I got excited because it's the Star League's creation, and this is just, yeah, because I know something really cool is about to happen. Not like the later Star League in the Inner Sphere versus the clans, and that just being ultimately kind of underwhelming. Yeah, just, I got chills, man. I legitimately got chills. This is one of the things I think Tex does really well. He intersperses all of this lore, showing why a mech matters. If anything, I wish he would go back in and show this kind of stuff with I was going to say the awesome list. Yeah, the awesome and the Atlas. Just to get that straight lore dump he can tack in later on. Because I want to see what led to the Atlas going in. I know it was a lot of Kerensky, but I want to know more. What was the specific reasoning? How often did Kerensky use it? What happened? How did this become the big thing for the Steiners? Other than the fact that the guys making it were basically all in the Steiner space. Which, is that the only reason? I don't know, but I would love to find out. Just so many things. Tex does a really damn good job of giving you context that makes it so much more engaging, and I love this. Also, goddamn, that intro scene. They did work on that. I don't even know who edits these videos. I mean, I probably do, and I just forgot because I'm an idiot. I can actually just go double check right now. Featuring and musicians, story, podcasts. Wow, there's a lot of music in this. Holy shit. And it doesn't say, or I missed it. Goddamn. Still, though, just yes. I'm a little blown away by the intro and just all the cool lore we're getting. I like anything that touches on the past in BattleTech because there's always so much going on. There's so much room for stories still to be told, and then to branch out in ways you didn't expect because it's just hidden enough that you have the leeway to create things still. And I just love this. So if you haven't already, there's a link below to the original video. It's Tex. It's the Black Pants Legion. Hit them up. Are you done? Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And if there's anything I missed, or if you know anything about this lore I might have missed, which I'm pretty sure you do because it's me, I miss shit. But I always want to know more. Let me know. I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.